Hello, and thank you for calling Paragus Strategic IT.
We've
You have
lost
not
the
entered
amount of
any
time
numbers.
someone has
Please
said,
re-enter your meeting
"That's an interesting
ID
idea,"
followed by pound.
but you'll never make it happen. If we'd listened to them, Paragus wouldn't exist today.
Goodbye.
We're here because we don't let anyone tell us what we can dream or what we can do. Tell us we're nuts, and we'll probably do it anyway. Tell us it's impossible, and you can guarantee we'll do it. As companies get bigger, a lot of them get more conservative and buttoned up. They lose track of what made them unique and successful in the first place. At Paragus, our growth has always been fueled by the long shot, by the big idea, by not playing it safe, by doing the things that everyone says can't be done. And we have no plans on changing.
God bless America. Only in America. And God bless Paragus like thee.
Good morning, everyone. Can I just get a thumbs up if people can hear me? Yes, perfect, awesome, thank you, I appreciate that. Welcome. I want to kind of get us started really quickly here. So I'm just going to hand over control to our co-presenter. All right, and Michael, you should be able to share your screen now whenever you're ready. But welcome everybody for attending today. We're doing something a little bit different for some of the other webinars that we have done recently. Today, what we're going to be doing is inviting a partner in to show us a product that they have that we are introducing to some of our clients. So the point of today is to kind of expose you to a new technology that maybe you haven't seen before, you've probably heard about, give you a chance to kind of see some of the benefits and how tools and programs like this can help your business, and then to also give you an opportunity to ask any questions that you may have of either Paragus or our partner today. So without any further ado, we'll kind of just go ahead and get started. I've put you all on mute. If anybody does need to unmute themselves, please don't hesitate to do so. Otherwise, I will also be paying attention to the chat, and I'm happy to respond to questions there. And we'll make sure to leave some time at the end if you want to jot down any questions that you've got that aren't super time sensitive. All right, can you advance the slide for me, Mike?
Absolutely.
All right, you can actually go one more. Perfect. So just a quick introduction to Paragus for anybody who's not familiar with our firm. We are an outsourced IT vendor in Hadley, Massachusetts, and we specialize in partnering with small and medium-sized businesses of the region to help them with anything and everything technology related. We can partner with existing IT departments to supplement what they're doing internally, or we can become a company's entire IT department for smaller firms that don't have IT in-house. As we like to say, one thing that we're incredibly focused on is this idea of making IT fun. And that's part of the thought process behind these webinars that we've been running, is we really want to help businesses think about how they can use technology to make their organization more efficient, to make it better, to make it faster, to help you better serve whoever it is that you serve in your business. And so kind of our focus and dedication around making IT fun was the genesis behind these webinars, is helping to expose clients and prospective clients and other businesses in our community to what is possible with technology that maybe you're not already doing, and to explore some of those different avenues and topics. Today is, of course, no exception. And in just a few minutes, I'm going to be handing it over to Mike, who's going to be talking to us about document imaging and some of the really interesting automation that you can do once you have more and more of your documents digitized. All right, go ahead. And before I do that, I just want to introduce you guys to a quick concept that we've been pioneering over the past few months. Historically, Paragus has been comprised of three major focuses. We have one department that provides on-demand service. They're dedicated to being available to our clients whenever they need help in the moment. We have another department that's dedicated to security and compliance. They're worried about all the stuff that happens behind the scenes, after hours, and they're doing their very best to address and deal with all of those different risks and all those different challenges. And then we have our strategy department that's working with our clients to think about which technologies they're investing in, how they're using technology, and how they can leverage technology to make their organization better. But the genesis behind this webinar series has been this next slide, which is what we're calling the fourth pillar of IT, or productivity and intelligence. This is all about leveraging technology to make your business better. And predominantly, we have so far been focused on the Microsoft Office 365 stack. Today, we're going to be looking at a product that plays nicely with 365, but is actually outside of that stack, but is still in this same mindset of using technology platforms to make the business more efficient, more productive, and make things easier and better to run. And especially, all of us learned during COVID that some things just don't work very well remotely. We had a lot of clients that were struggling with what used to be on paper and filing cabinets not working when everybody's working from home. And that's one of the things that we're going to spend some time looking at today. Go ahead. And so without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to our presenter. Michael Kochi is a regional sales director from Square9, and Square9 Softworks has developed an application, really a platform that allows for all kinds of different things. And the goal of today is to kind of give you a high-level overview of what's possible, and then kind of do a little bit of a deep dive, almost as a case study, in a very specific application for their product, so that you can kind of see the breadth of what's possible and then go deep into one particular use case that may or may not be applicable to your business, but it will give you a sense of what some of the applications that you can use something like this for. So Michael, without any further ado, I will hand it over to you.
All right, thanks, Delcy. Can everyone hear me okay? Same thing, kind of thumbs up that you can hear me. Excellent. As Delcy had said, my name is Mike Kochi. I'm the regional sales director with Square9 Softworks. Just a kind of quick introduction as to who we are. So we're an enterprise content management solution provider. We've been around for over 20 years, headquartered in New Haven, Connecticut. That's actually our headquarters right there. If you're familiar with the area. And when we talk about ourselves as an organization, we really focus on three key areas. So we feel that as an organization, we're providing one of the most innovative products out there. And we continue to innovate on that with about 2 major product releases a year. So the solutions we'll talk about are constantly being updated and expanded to address the ever-changing marketplace that's out there. The solution itself is trusted by about 13,000 customers, everywhere from small to medium-sized businesses up to the enterprise. And over the past year or so, we've received awards from some of the major organizations out there, like Buyers Laboratory, Canada Report, really kind of emphasizing the strength and innovativeness of our application. And also when it comes to security, as an organization, we are highly focused on security, providing a solution, both SOC 1, SOC 2, and SOC 3 actually compliant, as well as leveraging HIPAA compliance. So as you look to the market and looking for focus on an innovative solution that you can trust, that provides that level of security, we're the perfect fit for that. So when we look at the Square9 model, we look at ourselves really as one source for enterprise content management solutions. So as Delcy had mentioned, we do see ourselves as a platform, and we provide solutions fully integrated everywhere from the initial capture of information and documents, through the automation, through the storage, as well as long-term archival and web forms, as organizations take that digital transformation step from paper-based processes to those digital processes. These solutions, and we'll talk about them in just a minute, are fully integrated and scalable. So knowing not all organizations require the same types of solutions. Our solutions can be deployed modularly. So as an organization sees needs, they can continue to add on various components and functionality to scale up to meet ever-changing requirements. And our solutions are also both horizontally and vertically focused. When we go through the demonstration, the solution we're going to talk about is going to be focused around AP processing. And two reasons for that, really. One, it's where most of our customers see a lot of value in our product, because that AP process typically is paper intensive, inefficient, and a great area of opportunity to streamline what can be a difficult business process. The other reason is, as our solutions are developed, we actually have taken the step of developing pre-built solutions that can be rapidly deployed. And we'll talk about that a little more when we get into the demonstration. But most organizations in our space are really fully bespoke, fully custom, which can lead to longer deployment times, complicated deployments, and higher costs. What we've done is we've taken this horizontal and vertical focus by pre-building configurations that can be rapidly deployed. Sometimes in a tenth of the time it would take a typical organization to deploy a similar solution. That means as a customer, you take advantage of the product right away, as well as you see a much quicker return on investment. So then, as I mentioned, we really do see ourselves as a platform, and there are 4 pillars in that platform. And what I'm going to do here, I just want to introduce you to the terms we're going to use through the demonstration. So as I talk about the various modules, and I use terms like GlobalCapture and GlobalAction, I want to put some context around it, so you have an idea of what I'm talking about versus just throwing out some words. So when we look at the 4 pillars of our solution, it all starts with capture. So capture can be one of the areas where you can gain some of the most efficiencies when you look at content management and business process automation. The ability to transform paper or digital files like Word, Excel, PDF into actionable information is a great place to start any digital transformation workflow. So with our GlobalCapture platform, we're able to capture documents, whether it's paper scanned or documents that are already electronic, and extract that mission critical and business critical information from those documents. From there, documents can be acted on. So moving documents through a process that today may be manual, whether it's a combination of scanning documents to email, or in the office moving them from desk to desk or inbox to inbox, or moving them electronically via email. Taking that manual and unstructured process and putting a more structured workflow around it. Global Search is our content management repository. I like to refer to this really as the backbone of our system. This is where your documents will live. This is where organizations can search, find, retrieve, view, work with documents in an electronic format. It's also where things like the audit trail is kept. So you can always make sure that no documents are being seen or accessed by people that shouldn't have access to those documents. And then GlobalForms is our web forms platform. This is a way for organizations to start moving away from any kind of paper-based processes, or even a fillable forms workflow. Organizations may be using things like PDF forms that they're emailing around or sending around. We can automate that process with a fully web-based forms platform. So when we look at GlobalCapture, GlobalCapture provides a really easy, simple way for organizations to not only capture, but classify documents, validate the information that's on them, whether that's digitally or even doing a visual validation to make sure that the data that's been extracted is the correct data. Once we capture those documents and extract that data, we pass it on to the Global Search platform. This is a way for organizations to improve productivity by simplifying the retrieval of information, distribution of information, and the organization of that information. As I mentioned, also, we do provide a secure audit trail. So at any time, someone can take a look and see what actions have been taken on a document to make sure that, again, only authorized people are accessing and viewing that critical information. In the background of our global search application is our GlobalAction business process platform. This is a simple but powerful business process automation tool that can take manual processes that you may be doing now in paper and fully automate those. It allows users to kind of map activities from data capture to archival. It also gives users the ability to keep critical business processes moving by allowing them to take action on documents in real time. And then GlobalForms, a workflow-driven e-forms platform. So really extending the document automation process to where paper-based or even again PDF-based form processes can be automated, and people can access these documents simply by going to a link, filling out information, and then sending those documents onto an automated workflow. So at this point, I'm going to step away from PowerPoint and jump into a demonstration and actually take you through the products in real time. So what I want to do is I want to walk you through a little bit of the layout of the screen, show you what the interface looks like, and then we'll take you through that business process that I mentioned. As I said, we're going to really focus on an accounts payable workflow. But this really could be any manual business process that you have in your organization that you're looking to put some automation around. As I also mentioned, AP is one that we talk to probably more than any other. And that's typically because it's a manual process in most organizations. So as I navigate through the screen here, one of the things I want to point out is how we organize content. We organize content in what we call archives. Right? An archive for us is a digital file cabinet. And in my configuration here, and this is just my demo environment, we have 5 actually different archives. Our focus today will be here under accounts payable, but we also have accounts receivable, contracts, human resources, and we call wellness. So the first 4 are what we call our business essentials configuration. As I mentioned earlier, if you recall, I talked about how we've pre-built some configurations. Business essentials is kind of our flagship pre-built horizontal configuration, meaning it's something that can work really in any type of business. So whether it's financial services, whether it's healthcare, whether it's manufacturing, these are key areas that exist in any organization. So what we've done is taken our 20 years of experience and looked at best practices. And based upon that, we've built out this configuration. Right? This configuration includes these archives or digital file cabinets. It includes what we call index values. And index values are information that describes a document. So in this case, we're looking at accounts payable, we're looking at invoices, and you would describe an invoice by vendor name, document type, date, invoice number, PO number, amount. So that's a way you describe it, and then ultimately be able to search for that document. If I jump to accounts receivable, renew my license here, too much talking. If I jump into accounts receivable, you're going to see that we have similar index values. But if I jump into human resources, they're going to be very different because I wouldn't organize a human resources document the same way I would organize an accounts payable document. Again, this configuration is something that we've pre-built, can be a rapid deploy. Wellness, I won't spend much time on, but this is a COVID-19 attestation application that we've built that can be bundled into any of our configurations. So if your organization is starting to bring employees back in into the office, bringing in visitors, and you're looking for that attestation, that screening process, we do have an application and solution for that. Jumping back into accounts payable, you'll notice that we have the navigation here on the left, and then our documents here in a grid view. The reason that we lay the documents out in this type of format is because this is a common format most people are used to using. If you think of things like email, which most of us spend a lot of our day in, we have the navigation here on the left, and the documents here in a grid view on the right. So it's a very easily recognized, very easily understood application interface. The way we lay the documents out in this grid view, right, is with every column being those index values that I mentioned, right, those values that describe that document. Every row is actually a document. So if I were to hover over the little icon, you can see the little document. If you do kind of a quick click, it'll open that document up in a viewer, in a browser, excuse me. Or I can double click that document and it opens up in our viewer, which we'll talk about in just a second. The other thing about this grid view is you can modify the layout, meaning I can just move things around as I may want. Right? I can sort and filter like I would with a spreadsheet. Right? I can show and hide columns just like I would with a spreadsheet. And those are sticky views. Those are views that once I set it up, it's sticky to me, but it wouldn't change anyone else's view. Right? We also have these tabs across the top, so I can tab through and look at the various document types inside that archive. So it's very easy to navigate through, to open up documents, to look at documents. Right? When I open up a document in the viewer, as I did here, right, we have a thumbnail here on the left-hand side, document in the middle, and then those index values here on the right. Right. I also have a set of markup tools that I can use, so things like highlights, stamps, so if I wanted to put a quick stamp on something. And these stamps can be layers in the document, or I can burn them into the document and make them a permanent part of that document. We also have things like redaction, so if I have confidential information, I can go ahead and black that out. And these annotations are also rights-driven, meaning I may have rights to view documents, but I can't do anything or look under the annotations. Or I may have more rights and I can look and I can go ahead and move, delete, replicate those types of annotations. I'm going to shut down the viewer here for just a second. All right. And we're going to talk a little bit about searching and also how we can bring documents into the system. So in my demo environment here, I have a whole 14 documents, right? So I could visually look and see what I'm looking for. Right? In a real world, in a production environment, 14,000, 140,000, 1.4 million, who knows how many documents you may have in the system. Right? So I wouldn't necessarily be able to visually look and see what I might find my documents. So what we've done is we built out a full search set of searches or queries. And these searches can be what we call browse searches. Right? And a browse search would be just what it is. I want to kind of typing in here what I'm looking for. Right? So I'm looking for something with Jen and the vendor name. I type in that search, runs the result, and brings me back all documents with the word Jen and the vendor name. Maybe my result set came back, and it was, instead of 14,000 documents, it was down to 30 documents. I could then go in and refine that search and further refine what I'm trying to find and find that content. So I can narrow it down to just exactly what I'm looking for. Searches can also be pointed searches. What I mean by that is, as an accounts payable person, kind of staying on this talk track, one of the things that may be important to me is, oops, not that one, would be invoices that I've received in the last 30 days. Because I want to look and make sure I didn't miss anything. So they can be preset searches based upon a set criteria. In this case, I can run that search. I don't think I have anything in my demo environment in the last 30 days, so it'll probably come up with an empty result set. But I can just run this search quickly and bring back those results. So I have a lot of ways of finding that information. When we talk to organizations, many will have documents organized in a shared folder structure, and as their, I'm using air quotes here, document management, right? Which is a natural first step when trying to organize content. The challenge that organizations run into when they start using things like Windows folders to organize content is, first of all, it can be very complex. You end up with folders inside of folders inside of folders, and occasionally an important document gets put in the wrong folder. And the only time you find it is when you accidentally were looking for something else and bump into it. The other challenge organizations run into is how they name those files, as well as searching. So an example, if I'm, again, staying in the accounts payable world, if it's important to me to find the invoice for a specific vendor, I can probably navigate to that folder and find that invoice. However, if I want to find all invoices that came in the past 30 days, as I showed previously, that's not something I'd ever be able to accomplish with my documents in a bunch of nested folders. There'd be no way to come up with that result set. So those are the kind of areas searching can help increase efficiency and help your organizations increase or get a more efficient business process. And that's why we organize this with the metadata versus using folders and subfolders. Now, as far as how we bring documents into the system, I'm going to start with some very manual ways to do that, some semi-automated ways to do that, and then we'll jump into more fully automated ways to do that. So a simple way to bring a document into the system is if I click these three little dots here, these ellipses, it's going to open up another window. So if I had a locally attached scanner to my system, I could just scan directly into Global Search. So I could just go ahead, hit scan, it launched my local scanner. Even though this would be a cloud-hosted system, I could run a locally attached scanner. If I was doing a import of information from another system, I could do a import data and documents. If I wanted to just browse out, I could select import file, browse to a folder, and bring those documents in. But one of the easiest ways to bring documents in is just simply do a drag and drop into the system. So as I drag and drop that document into the system, it's going to open it up in that viewer. Now, this viewer that you're looking at is going to be consistent across all of the modules of our application. So when I move out of our global search, which is our document management system, kind of that backbone application, and I move into GlobalCapture, you're going to see this same interface. So it's going to be very consistent from a user experience. So as I bring that document into the system, right, it's now going to have these values blank. So it's going to want me to fill these out. And I can do that by typing. So I could type in what I'm looking for, but no one really wants to do typing. It's an inefficient process. It's error prone. So what we've done is we've created a system we called key-free indexing, which is really kind of machine-assisted indexing. And what it allows me to do is simply click on the areas of the document that I want to index and automatically populate those values. So what it does an OCR of the document at the screen level. And now if I hover over the different words on the document, you can see it shows what's under my mouse. So in this case, I want to grab vendor name of Dunlop Manufacturing. I'll select document type, vendor invoice. I'll grab the document date off the document, grab the invoice number, the purchase order number, the amount. And this approval process we'll talk about in a second. This is how I would initiate a automated workflow process. Right? So in looking at this document, I see that it's $27,000. So I know it needs 2 approvals as an example. Right? In this case, I'm actually the only approver in my system. So I'm going to make myself both approvers. Right? I'll select save and go ahead and close that document down. So what I've done with this process is I've gone ahead and I've indexed that document, I've brought it to the system, I've indexed it, and I've initiated the approval process. Now, for many organizations that may have a lower volume of invoices, this may be sufficient. In many organizations, that have maybe 50 invoices a week that they receive. This may be enough efficiency for them to move away from a manual process and gain that ROI by moving to more of a digital process. Just as a point of reference, the typical user can key-free index about 100 documents in 20 minutes. So just to give you an idea of the kind of productivity, if you receive 50 invoices in a week, okay, you'd spend about 10 minutes key-free indexing documents. Now, organizations that may want to add additional automation and feel that maybe their volume is higher, or even that amount of business process, that amount of interaction is more than they would want, then we can move into what we call GlobalCapture, which is our capture automation tool. One thing I should have pointed out earlier, you'll notice I am in a web browser, and I'll be in a web browser throughout interactions with all of the applications. Right? The application is fully browser-based and fully hosted as well. We do offer an on-premise option of our application if it's something that customers are interested in. Same user experience, whether it's hosted or on-premise, really up to you. But the more and more of what we've seen, especially over the past year, as more and more organizations work remote, is people looking for fully cloud hosted, both for efficiencies and eliminating the cost associated with managing local servers and things. So anyway, so I switched out of Global Search and I jumped into GlobalCapture. Right? GlobalCapture is our capture automation tool. So if you think back of the 4 different pillars of our application, this was the first one I talked about. Right? These buttons on the screen represent the different functions in GlobalCapture. I'm going to focus here under Validate. These 2 over here are mostly for administration, creating workflows, managing the system. This is, like it says, to scan. So I could actually drive a local scanner from here as well, just like I was able to do in Global Search. So if I did have a scanner attached to my system, I could place that invoice or document in the feeder of the scanner, select the scan button, and bring that document in. The other 2 ways we bring documents into the system, and kind of what we're going to look at under validation, are through a monitored folder or monitored email address. What we find is many organizations are using their multifunction devices that they've acquired from whatever company to scan documents. Right? So we can leverage that existing scan process without any changes. You still walk to the same multifunction device, you still press the scan button, you put that document in a folder, and then we'll monitor that folder and pull it into our system. When it's pulled into our system, you'll see this little number here. This is going to designate the number of documents that are waiting for what we call validation. We could have also monitored an email address, which is a much more common way for us to be pulling documents. Most organizations have put in place an email address, something like invoices@yourcompany.com or AP@yourcompany.com, where they'll have vendors send these invoices in electronically. Again, I'm focused on AP, but these could be any documents. They could be contracts, they could be sales orders, it could be anything. When those documents come into that email address, we'll automatically extract it, pull it into our system, and have it sit inside this validate as well. So whether you're scanning from a multifunction device, monitoring email, everything's still accessed through one area. If I click on that validate button, it's going to bring me to what we call Batch Manager. Batch Manager is where you'll look and see what's happening with a scan processing. Documents typically sit in one of three states in Batch Manager. They're in processing, validation, which is what you see here, or completed. Processing, somewhat self-explanatory. It means the document's being processed by the system. And what processing typically means is we're trying to see if we know what document that is, we meaning the software. So the software is looking at the document, looking for key markers on it. If it's something that is recognized by the system, meaning we've taught the users taught the system what the document looks like, it'll automatically extract the data from it and pass it right from processing into completed. If it's a document that a user hasn't taught the system yet, it'll sit in validation, and that will just prompt the user to go in and teach the system what that document looks like. In my case, I actually have all documents stopping in validation for demonstration purposes, so you can see what that process looks like. But in a production environment, as you teach the system, as the users teach the system more and more what their organization's documents look like, less and less documents sit in validation and just becomes exception handling. So if I click on a document, which the rows represent the documents, this will go ahead and give me some information about that document. Process fields for us are just that index data. So that same data, like that amount, vendor name, record type, invoice number, PO number, that same index data that we had over here. Right. So I'm going to go ahead and right click on this document. I'm going to select validate. When I select validate, it's going to open up that document in that same viewer that we saw before. What you'll notice, and we're still in GlobalCapture here, is that these values are all filled out. You also notice these green circles here on the far right-hand side. Right. What this is telling me is that this is a document that the system recognized. Right? And typically that's because when the document came in the first time, and I'll show you this in just a second, we use a technology we call Rapid Adapt. And that is a way for users to teach the system what their documents look like in real time. Right? So the more you use the system, the smarter it gets. And if I look at the different circles, you'll notice, I don't know if you can see that, but it says confidence 100/0. What that means is the application is 100% confident that the data it extracted is the correct data. Right. The reason these confidence levels are important is because as you teach the system your documents and you work with it, these can designate whether the document sits in validation or gets passed through right from processing to completed. Right. So in this case, a document like this would go right from processing to completed. Typically is the way you would set it up. Right. In this case, I'm just going to select save and release it into Global Search. Right. And you'll see it's going to go from validation to processing to completed. Right. The second document, however, I'm going to go grab this one. Right. Again, same viewer, same interface, but you'll notice these values are all empty. Right. This means that no one's taught the system what this document looks like yet. Right. Now, if I'm going to receive one invoice a month from S9S, I could just click that, I could just go use that key free or type it in. Right. But if I'm going to receive a lot of invoices from S9S, I'm going to select this little fireball here. This fireball is going to invoke that rapid adapt that I mentioned. Again, rapid adapt is a way we can teach the system what the documents look like. Right? Again, do this through a set of what we call markers and zones. Right? So markers are ways to grab unique systems on the information on the document. So in this case, I'll grab S9S, right? I'll grab the zip code and maybe part of the address. What I've done here is I've told the system that if the system sees these values here, then we want to grab some zones. We want to grab vendor name, and I just need to grab part of the information here. I don't need to it doesn't have to be an exact science, as long as you're grabbing part of what you're looking for there. All right, this is going to be vendor name. I'm going to add a zone here for invoice number. I'm going to map it to invoice number. All right, add a zone for document date. I'm going to map that to document date. That's the document date. I grab the zone for PO number. Again, you don't have to be an exact science. Right, I'm going to grab a zone down here for total amount. Right, I'll make that total amount. Right. Once I'm done, I go to my next step and I give it a name. And then I save that template. I go under save and I reclassify. What reclassify is going to do, it's going to send it back to the system, match that document up against the template is created, validate the data, and release it into the system. So now next time an S9S invoice comes through, it's going to be automatically released into the system for processing. Right. So this is a way to make that system smarter over time, to teach it what your documents look like. So the more you use it, the more automation you get, the less manual intervention, and the more, the stronger the return on investment. So that's going to go ahead and process and release it. From here, I'm actually going to jump back into global search for a section. So we've talked about the global search, kind of that backbone of the system. We've talked about GlobalCapture. That's the way we just automated the ingestion and data extraction process. And now we're going to talk a little bit about GlobalAction, that business process engine. So GlobalAction just kind of runs in the background here. So we don't even necessarily know, we don't have to go into it. We don't have to do anything with it. It's really going to become a proactive way to let people know that they have things to do. So if you recall earlier, I dragged and dropped that Dunlop manufacturing document into the system. Right? This is the one that I dragged and dropped in. And I set the approvers on it. So by doing that, I started that process. So what's going to happen now is in the background, our GlobalAction workflow engine is going to go through and look for documents that have approvers set on them, right? And look at the status and start moving them through the process. And the first thing it'll do is it'll go ahead and generate an email, as you see here. Right? So what it did was the system generated an email to me that said, hey, a new vendor invoice requires your action, okay? And it's from Dunlop Manufacturing, and we populate that key information so I can see that. So as a first level approver, I get an email that says, hey, Mike, there's that invoice from Dunlop Manufacturing that you need to act on. We include a link to that document. So if I click on that link, it's going to go ahead and take me directly to that document in our system. Same interface as we saw before, same user experience. So as you see, this is going to become very consistent throughout the process. The difference is going to be that I have a new little section down here, right? Our queue actions. Right? So these are the functions and the actions I need to take on that document as a first level approver. I have all the same tools as I had before. my markups, my annotations, my highlights, my redactions, stamps, signature tools, lots of different things I can do here. As I review this document, right, as a first level reviewer, part of my process may be that I need to do some GL coding on that document. So for those that aren't in an AP world, this is general ledger coding. What I'm doing is I'm just identifying where in my general ledger in my accounting system these values need to go, what they're correlated to. And I can do that by selecting this little waffle icon down here, right? And then I can go ahead and invoke that same key-free indexing I used before. The difference is going to be, instead of adding the index values on the left-hand side like I did before, I'm going to go ahead and grab those values off the document. So as I click into an area here, I can go ahead and grab that and populate it. Right. The other thing that I can do is, if I have a lot of stuff, I can just grab down it and populate those values in a row. And then just go ahead and apply my associated GL codes. And I'm just going to randomly grab GL codes that mean nothing because it's just demo environment. Right? But you get the idea. I GL code my document. Right? Now that it's GL coded, I go ahead and save that. Right? And then I need to take my action on it. I'm going to approve that document. By me approving it, right, it notifies it in the system, marks it as approved in the audit trail. Then it sends it on its way for the next person to approve. So the next person in the process will then be notified via email that they have a document they need to work on. Same process they'll go through, build those same functions, and that'll walk the document all the way through into a final step for an AP clerk to either manually or automated or through an automated process pass that data to their accounting system. One other thing I'll point out, the workflow that I've shown thus far, including the capture, including the email generation and automation, is all part of our base configuration. So this is our kind of pre-built out-of-the-box functionality. Things where people kind of move beyond that is when they get more into integration to different back-end systems. That's kind of one of the things we typically see as outside of the standard. However, we do, when we talk to customers, we try to encourage them to start with our base configuration, get comfortable with it before they start making too many changes. But it's up to you how your organization wants to look at a solution. The system now went ahead and generated that second email for the second level approval. I would just go in and I would now make my second level approval on that document. The other thing we can do is, if you don't want to have to go through all those emails, we can use what we call a task list. And what a task list does, it's just a quick way to look at the documents that I have to work with. So in this case, here's that document I was working with, right? Dunlop Manufacturing. Right? It tells me everything about it. It tells me that who the first approver was, that it's been approved. It's now pending second level, and the current approver, is me. As I mentioned, I'm the same approver in the system. So I could open that document up in that viewer like we saw before, walk through that same process, or if I want to just a quick look at it, I do that same kind of quick click. I look, I see my document. Yeah, that's good. Everything looks okay. I could select it, and then from my actions, just select approve. So I can use my task list as well as a quick way to move documents through an approval process. Once documents reach their final approval, the AP clerk would then be able to log in, select the AP entry, right? And they'll see those documents. In this case, here's that same document, right? It's reached the status of approved, right? So no more approvers needed on it. And now, as an AP clerk, I have actions for enter into accounting system, reject it, maybe it's something I don't like about it, wasn't sure on, right? Or restart the approval process. We also have options for things like doing through-in matches. So for those that are familiar with AP again, that through-in match, that purchase order, packing slip, invoice match to make sure everything is correct. Make sure the invoice matches what you ordered, and what you received is what you ordered, and what you purchased. Matching all those three, so we can also do that in the process as well. We're going to do that through matching. Now this document's fully approved. I'm just going to select enter into accounting system. It moves out of the AP clerk's queue. Right? And now if I go into the system, it's going to be marked in the system as completed. So that document has now reached a completed status. Kind of wrapping up the process we talked about here, we talked about the 4 pillars of our application: GlobalCapture, Global Search, GlobalAction, GlobalForms, and those are the kind of ways and applications that as an organization you can leverage to start moving yourselves on that digital transformation process from manual and paper-based processes or semi-automated processes using folders and things like that to more of a business process workflow. There's one last thing I did want to show, because we do know that as an organization, you probably won't spend all of your time in global search. Right? You probably spend a lot of your time in some sort of an ERP application. Right? So this is just a sample Salesforce page, but as an individual, this is where I live. This is where I work with my client information. This could be Dynamics, could be QuickBooks, could be anything. But I may have a question from someone about a document. So I may get a phone call or email, and someone says, "Hey, what's going on with order 1005?" Right. So typically I'd have to go in, write that down, or you say, "Hold on a second." I fumble through a bunch of papers and folders and subfolders, try to find that document, hopefully be able to answer. If not, maybe say, "I'll get back to you." We have an application we call Image Exchange. Image Exchange allows us to image enable almost any application by simply hovering over the value and selecting a keystroke. So in this case, I'm going to hover over that 1005. I'm going to select a key on my keyboard. That's going to extract the data that's underneath my mouse. Run a search in our system, launch global search, and bring back the documents associated with that value. Right? So I didn't have global search open, but by selecting that hotkey, it went into global search, pulled back that document, and found that 1005 document, which was that vendor invoice. So now I can answer that question right away. Yes, vendor musical instruments, that has been fully approved. We'll have payment out to you shortly. Thanks very much. Right. And they want a copy of it. Let me go ahead and send that out. Right from here, I can go ahead and email that. Oops, I can email that document out right from here. So, attach that document to my email and send it out to someone in real time. So send that right out. All right. So that Image Exchange is a simple way to image enable almost any application. So we're bumping up against the top of the hour. I ran a little long because of the technical difficulties, which I absolutely apologize for. But hopefully you were able to see the value of the solution. I would encourage any questions at this point. Dulcie, if you want to check and see if there's anything in the chat.
Yeah, Michael, one thing that was asked in the chat was if a company has an existing document imaging solution, let's say some old proprietary on-premise solution that they want to get off of, does your company have any experience doing migrations from one document managing system to another?
Yep, and yeah, absolutely we do.
Okay.
There are a decent number of legacy applications out there that people have stuff tied in. We can absolutely do conversions, bring that data in. And we actually have a special program we put in place for that, where we can kind of make it financially much more easy to make that transition. So we'd be happy to talk to you about that.
Perfect. Yeah, I told this person that we'd follow up with them after the call. So thank you very much. Are there any other questions from anybody on the call? I know we're getting really close to time, but anybody has something they want to ask before we let you go?
Yeah, hi, this is Todd Clark.
Hey, Todd, how you doing?
Good. Hi, Mike. Long time no see. No Mike for a long time.
How are you?
Good.
I know the same Todd Clarker now. How you doing?
Good, good. Anyway, I was wondering, the industry I'm in, we have a very small AP for accounting department. We got 3 people, but we are buried in paper with our warehouse processes. You guys have experience helping out in the logistics field?
Absolutely. Yep, we do. Yeah, and there's a great, if you go to our website, we have a section on case studies. And there are a couple actually for logistics and distribution companies, actually some local ones in Connecticut that you can kind of read through. And I'd be happy to have a follow-up conversation with you, Todd, and talk about how we can help.
All right, well, I'll keep that in mind. I do have to sit down with the operations manager first to get my head wrapped around on what exactly they do in the warehouse. I've only been here a little over a year now.
Okay.
But I see piles of paper everywhere. And I'm constantly being called and asked to buy toners. So I know it's very, very expensive, especially considering the field I did come from.
Yes, exactly. You're very aware of that, Todd.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, happy to talk to you. Let me know. If nothing else, just show you what we could do.
That would be great, because I know upper management here is anxious to get a lot of stuff moved off to the cloud, and I've started doing some of that. But I know that this paper process is really crushing around here. But I've been too focused upgrading the entire infrastructure for now. But I would love to see something that I could do for them.
You got it.
Mike, one other question popped up in the chat, and I assume I know the answer, but I'll let you answer it. Is there any program that you're not able to integrate with? They were specifically asking about Industrios and Sage as programs they would want to integrate with. I'm assuming the way the application is designed, it could basically integrate with anything, but any comment on that?
Yeah, so, Sage, there's a lot of Sage products out there, but that is, we have done integrations with Sage in the past, I'm not as familiar with Industrios, but I am familiar with Sage, and absolutely, really, there's different ways we can address integration, and that would depend on the application and what availability it has for passing data. But to Sage, absolutely.
Okay. And then I think our last question for the day is probably going to be, can you give us some general sense of how this product is priced, kind of how people should be thinking about this in terms of what they would be investing?
Yeah, so the way that the product is licensed, it's licensed on concurrent users. And concurrent users, just how many people are in the system at any given time. And we have everything from a very, very cost-effective, the business essentials base configuration that is something that would realistically be less than $2,000 a year in a subscription. So pretty low cost. Once you get into more business process automation, workflow, integration, those are the kinds of things that drive cost. And that's why we encourage a lot of customers to start with some of the more pre-built configurations we have, because once they get comfortable with it, they can actually expand out usage themselves. So we provide full self-paced online training. So once the system's up and running, they can actually, if they have the resources, expand functionality themselves. So it can be as cost-effective as you'd like, based upon requirements. So that's a long answer to the short question.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. And I think that was my understanding as well. So I think we'll go ahead and wrap up for today. However, if there are any other questions, please do not hesitate to reach out. We're happy to set up kind of more individual one-on-one conversations to talk about your business, your applications, your configuration, and kind of get into the weeds about what something might look like if you want to understand this product further within your own business. Otherwise, I want to thank everybody again for tuning in. I believe our next webinar is going to be focused on automation within the Microsoft 365 platform. Some of you may have heard about things like Microsoft Flow, Power Automate, Power Apps. We've started to allude to them a little bit in some of our previous webinars, and we're going to take a deep dive into some of the things that are possible using those applications to automate things that you're already doing right now, like updating an Excel spreadsheet or emailing somebody every time something happens. So stay tuned for that, and we hope to see you there. Otherwise, thanks again for tuning in, and I hope everybody has a great rest of your day. And thank you so much, Michael, for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye now.